Hello again. It is so nice to have you back. I am Mickey. I am not your mama's minister, and today I wanted to talk about grief. And so I probably shouldn't look so jovial, but I'm going to. Grief is a difficult emotion, isn't it? I mean, for everybody. I can't think of anybody that reacts to the loss of something. I know that there's a quote, I can't remember who it's by, but he or she talks about that grief is very personal, and there's really no way to compare it, because a child loses a doll and she may experience the same level of grief that a king would experience losing his crown. And I really like that because we do tend to pass judgment on the way people grieve, don't we? And we also pass judgment on ourselves. And we expect that we're going to feel more, maybe feel less, maybe feel for a shorter time, maybe a longer time. I hear people regularly say, I can't even remember his face, or I can't even remember her voice. I feel like life has continued on and I don't understand. And those are all really, really uh, awesome things to recognize, and also to accept them and say, your grief is different than my grief, is different than Jane Doe's grief. We need to remember not to pass judgment on people with how they grieve, whether they choose to start a candlelight vigil or start a GoFundMe to donate money in that person's name, whether they choose to have T-shirts made with the person's face, have plant a tree in their honor, build a huge, gigantic monument in their honor. We grieve very independently of each other. I know that when my mother passed away, as I've said before, there are 6 of us girls, and so we all lost a mother, and yet we all reacted very, very differently. And it was interesting to watch that process that everybody went through. And some of my sisters, still years later, are grieving, and have had a difficult time not having her there. And that's really what it is. That's really what grief is that difficult, because let's face it, the spirits, once you've died, that spirit, the soul, isn't interested in any monuments or anything like that. They realize that it's the way that they've lived that is their best testimony and testament to who they were as an individual, as a person. And so the things that we do to deal with that grief is for us. It's for us because we miss them, because we want to look at them and listen to them and touch them, maybe just one more time. But because that can't happen, we suffer immensely. And whether that is through a breakup, grief from a breakup, whether it's grief from the loss of a friendship, the loss of childhood, the moving, I've heard of people experiencing grief when they relocate, or grief from the loss of an animal. Good Lord. Um, some of my closest friends, family, loved ones, clients uh, have had more desperate grief with the loss of a pet than they have with loss of family members. And so it really varies from person to person, situation to situation, and we need to remember that it's yours. Own it, keep it. So people don't want to hear about it, so they're tired of hearing about it, they don't understand. Fine, then find somebody that will. There are support groups out there, there are counselors out there, hotlines out there. If you decide to go with a ritual or spell work or some sort of mystical work in order to recover from your grief, because you're finding that you're unable to move past it on your own, then more power to you. That's a great way to go as well. You can, of course, seek out uh, spiritualists that do medium work, and just, as I always say, make sure that they're ethical, make sure that they're not conning you, make sure that it's somebody that you have a good rapport with. That's very important, especially when you're doing any type of seance or medium work. You have to have a good rapport. You don't have to trust each other, but you have to have a good rapport. And you know that the biggest thing that I wanted to impress upon each of you is that you need to remember, one, don't be so hard on people who are grieving. I don't care whether it's for 20 days or 20 years. That's not yours, that's theirs. And you may not understand it, and you may not agree with it. You may think that they need to move past, but it's theirs. And so be understanding. And then for those of you who are grieving, my heart goes out to you. And like I said, make sure that you do what you need to do for, I know it's so cliche to use this term, but self-care. You know, you need to take care of yourself. And so you need to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to, if you aren't going to move past the grief, then that's fine. But at least learning how to live with it and learning how to make it fit. Give yourself some breathing room, you know, a little bit of elastic in that spiritual pair of slacks. Don't be too hard on yourself. And always remember that you know, they are with us. They're with us all the time, whether they were related to us and so they're in our blood, or whether they were, you know, just a passing person. I know that we're all grieving over the horrible violence going on in the world right now and the loss of life that the world has experienced. Good Lord, you know, we don't know what any of those people might have done for the world, you know. So it's that's something that we're all going through, and but we all experience it differently. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, if you want some advice on where to go for some help with your grief, then go ahead and drop me a line, and you know how to reach me. I'm all over the place all the time. And I think that's it. Many blessings to you, much love, and may your grief be short and your memory be long. And I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Oh, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. I think that's it.